Prince William's recent statement defending Princess Diana's legacy has sent shockwaves through the British monarchy. His bold words have reignited discussions about Diana's treatment, placing Queen Camilla under renewed scrutiny and forcing King Charles into a difficult position. The controversy has fueled a media frenzy, deepened tensions within the royal family, and sparked debates about the monarchy's relevance in modern Britain. As Diana's influence continues to shape the future of the royal institution, this moment could prove to be a defining turning point. Shockwaves in Buckingham Palace. Prince William's statement was a direct challenge to the carefully controlled image of the royal family. His words cut through decades of tradition, forcing Buckingham Palace into an uncomfortable reckoning with its past. Inside the palace, the reaction was immediate. Senior aides scrambled to assess the damage, while members of the royal family privately debated how to respond. This was not just a son defending his mother's memory, it was a public denunciation of the very system that had once failed Diana. For years, the monarchy has relied on silence and carefully orchestrated public appearances to maintain its stability. Yet William's decision to speak so candidly about the injustices Diana faced shattered this precedent. His words reverberated beyond the walls of Buckingham Palace, igniting discussions among both royal supporters and critics. The press, always eager for a royal scandal, dissected every aspect of his statement, further amplifying its impact. Within hours, headlines worldwide echoed the prince's declaration, and social media erupted with messages of support. Many praised him for his courage, hailing him as the true heir to Diana's legacy. Others questioned what this meant for the future of the monarchy. Was this the beginning of a new, more transparent royal family, or a moment that would create deeper divisions within the institution? King Charles and Queen Camilla found themselves at the center of the controversy. While Charles has always prioritized stability, William's words made it clear that some issues could no longer be ignored. The question now was whether the royal family would address the past openly or attempt to weather the storm in silence. Either way, one thing was certain: this was not a moment that would fade easily. Queen Camilla's emotional reaction. For Queen Camilla, the resurgence of Diana's name in the public conversation was nothing short of devastating. She had spent decades working to rebuild her image, slowly stepping out of the shadow of the past. But with William's powerful words, that shadow was back, looming larger than ever. Reports from inside the palace suggest that Camilla was visibly shaken by the statement. She retreated to her private chambers, struggling to process the reality that, despite the passage of time, Diana's presence remained unshakable. Those close to her described the moment as one of the most difficult since she officially joined the royal family. For years, she had fought to gain public acceptance, using charity work and a dignified approach to her role as queen to distance herself from the controversies of the past. Yet, in the eyes of many, she would always be the woman who replaced Diana. The comparisons were inevitable, but William's statement had reignited them with fresh intensity. Suddenly, the public conversation wasn't just about Diana's treatment, it was about Camilla's place in the monarchy. Could she ever truly escape the past, or would Diana's legacy continue to define her in the court of public opinion? King Charles was deeply concerned about his wife's emotional well-being. He had fought to have her by his side, weathering years of criticism and public backlash. But this moment was different. The monarchy itself was being questioned, and Camilla was once again cast as a controversial figure. She had no choice but to endure the renewed scrutiny, knowing that history's memory was long and unrelenting. As headlines dissected every detail of the situation, Camilla faced a difficult truth. No matter how much time had passed, Diana's influence remained stronger than ever. The queen consort found herself at the center of a storm she thought had long since passed. King Charles' dilemma. King Charles found himself in an impossible position, torn between his role as monarch, his duty as a father, and his loyalty to his wife. For decades, he had sought to stabilize the royal family, gradually reshaping its public image following the turbulence of Diana's era. But now, his son's powerful statement had reignited old wounds, forcing him to confront a past he had worked so hard to move beyond. Privately, Charles was said to be deeply conflicted. As a father, he understood why William had spoken out. He had seen firsthand how Diana suffered under the relentless media scrutiny, how she was manipulated and isolated. A part of him likely sympathized with William's frustration. But as king, his primary concern was preserving the monarchy's stability. William's words had created a public storm, and Charles had to decide whether to respond or allow it to pass. His marriage to Camilla had not been without controversy, but over time, they had managed to shift public opinion. Now, however, her position was once again under intense scrutiny. While Charles wanted to support his wife, he also knew that dismissing William's concerns would be disastrous. If he was seen as disregarding Diana's legacy, it could alienate the very people he needed to maintain public trust. Behind closed doors, senior advisors debated their next move. Some urged Charles to issue a response, perhaps a carefully worded statement acknowledging Diana's impact while reaffirming the monarchy's commitment to modernizing. Others warned that engaging directly could escalate tensions further. For Charles, this was more than just a PR crisis. It was a defining moment in his reign. How he handled it would shape not only his legacy, but also the future of the monarchy. Would he stand by Camilla, attempt to reconcile with William, or choose silence as the best course of action? The world was watching, and every move carried weight. Public and media frenzy. The reaction to Prince William's statement was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, news outlets across the globe picked up the story, dissecting every word and analyzing its implications. Major newspapers ran headlines questioning how the royal family would respond, while social media platforms erupted with discussions about Diana's legacy, Camilla's place in the monarchy, and what this meant for the future of the royal institution. Public opinion was divided, though a significant portion of the population sided with William. Many praised him for his courage, seeing his statement as an act of justice for his mother. To them, he was living up to Diana's legacy, boldly standing against an establishment that had once silenced her. Supporters flooded social media with messages like, "Diana would be proud," and "The monarchy must be held accountable." At the same time, the media frenzy placed the entire royal family under a microscope. Every past statement, action, and controversy related to Diana, Charles, and Camilla was revisited. Old footage of Diana's interviews resurfaced, along with articles from the 1990s that painted a painful picture of her final years. The BBC's infamous interview scandal was once again at the forefront, fueling public outrage over the way she had been deceived. News analysts debated the potential fallout. Would this permanently damage Camilla's public standing? Could it create deeper fractures within the royal family? Some speculated that this moment marked a shift in how the monarchy engaged with its past. Whether they wanted to or not, they could no longer avoid these discussions. Meanwhile, palace aides scrambled to control the narrative. Traditionally, the monarchy followed the never complain, never explain rule, choosing silence over direct confrontation. But in the digital age, where public opinion could turn in an instant, remaining silent was a risk. Every day that passed without a response only fueled more speculation. The situation was now bigger than just a single statement from William. It had become a full-scale media storm, one that threatened to reshape public perception of the royal family in ways no one had anticipated. Reopening Diana's shadow over Camilla. For years, Queen Camilla had carefully crafted her public image, working diligently to separate herself from the scandals of the past. She had embraced her role in the monarchy, focusing on charitable work and presenting herself as a steady, reliable presence alongside King Charles. But William's statement changed everything, bringing back the most painful chapter of her life, the love triangle between her, Charles, and Diana. Almost instantly, the comparisons resurfaced. Social media was flooded with side-by-side photos of Diana and Camilla, accompanied by captions that reignited old narratives. To many, Diana was still the people's princess, a woman who had been wronged by the monarchy. Meanwhile, Camilla, despite her years of service, was once again cast as the woman who had taken her place. The renewed scrutiny was overwhelming. Royal commentators noted that while Camilla had gained some public acceptance over the years, she had never truly won over Diana's most loyal supporters. And now, with Diana's name dominating headlines once more, Camilla found herself back in a position she had fought hard to move past. Palace insiders suggested that she took the backlash harder than she let on. While she maintained her composure in public, those close to her described a woman who was deeply unsettled by the resurgence of public hostility. She had spent decades proving herself, yet it seemed that no matter what she did, Diana's shadow was inescapable. King Charles, aware of his wife's distress, was determined to protect her. But he also knew that no amount of damage control could erase Diana's place in history. No matter how much time had passed, she remained one of the most beloved figures in modern royal history. Her memory too powerful to fade. For Camilla, this was a painful reminder that, in the public's eyes, she would always be seen in contrast to Diana. The past was never truly buried, and in moments like this, it came roaring back with full force. Growing generational divide in the monarchy. Prince William's bold stance not only exposed fractures within the royal family, but also highlighted a deeper divide, one that stretched across generations. Younger Britons, raised in an era of transparency and accountability, were increasingly questioning the role of the monarchy, while older generations remained more inclined to uphold tradition. William and Kate represented a new approach to royalty, one that emphasized relatability, emotional openness, and modern values. Unlike previous generations who prioritized formality and restraint, they had embraced a more hands-on parenting style, spoken openly about mental health, and engaged with the public in ways that felt refreshingly genuine. This stood in stark contrast to the older generation of royals, including King Charles and Queen Camilla. Though Charles had made efforts to modernize the institution, his reign was still rooted in the traditions of the past. His preference for diplomacy and discretion often clashed with William's more direct, outspoken nature. The divide was also reflected in public opinion. Polls indicated that while older Britons still strongly supported the monarchy, younger people were far more skeptical. Many questioned whether an institution based on hereditary privilege still had a place in modern Britain. William's decision to speak out about Diana's mistreatment only added fuel to this growing conversation. Social media played a significant role in shaping these perspectives. The younger generation, raised on platforms like Twitter and TikTok, engaged in open discussions about the monarchy in ways that previous generations never could. Hashtags like "Justice for Diana" trended worldwide, and viral videos dissecting the royal family's past missteps racked up millions of views. For William, this divide presented both an opportunity and a challenge. He had the chance to reshape the monarchy into something more aligned with modern values, but he also risked alienating those who still clung to tradition. The question was, could he bridge the gap between past and future, or was the monarchy destined to remain stuck in an outdated system? Prince Harry's conflicted reaction. From across the Atlantic, Prince Harry watched as his brother's words sent shockwaves through the royal family. While he had long been vocal about Diana's struggles, seeing William take such a public stance must have stirred complicated emotions. For years, they had shared the same pain over their mother's tragic fate, but their paths had since diverged. Harry had chosen to step away from royal duties entirely, seeking a new life in the United States with Meghan Markle. His departure had been marked by explosive interviews, including his claims that the institution failed to protect Diana, Meghan, and even himself. Now, with William making his own stand, some speculated whether the brothers were finally on the same page. Sources close to Harry suggested mixed feelings. On one hand, he admired William's willingness to confront the past, something Harry himself had been doing for years. On the other hand, their differing approaches highlighted the growing chasm between them, While Harry had distanced himself from the monarchy to enact change from the outside, William was fighting to reform it from within. The media, eager to capitalize on the ongoing rift, speculated about whether this moment would bring the brothers closer or deepen their divide. Some royal experts believed that William's statement echoed many of Harry's past sentiments, suggesting that beneath their personal tensions, they still shared a common cause: protecting Diana's legacy. Despite this, there was no immediate public response from Harry. Whether he saw William's actions as validation of his own criticisms or simply another chapter in their complicated family history remained uncertain. What was clear, however, was that Diana's influence continued to shape both of her sons, no matter how far apart their paths had taken them. Impact on the monarchy's stability. Within Buckingham Palace, the ripple effects of William's statement were impossible to ignore. Senior aides held emergency meetings, trying to strategize a response that would neither escalate the situation nor make the monarchy appear out of touch. The problem was that William's words had struck a nerve, not just within the royal family, but among the public. For decades, the monarchy's strength had been its ability to project stability. Even during times of scandal, the institution had managed to weather the storm through carefully calculated responses, or sometimes strategic silence. But this time felt different. This was not an external controversy. It was a direct challenge from within. William, the future king, had openly criticized the institution's handling of Diana, making it impossible for the palace to dismiss the situation as mere tabloid gossip. His words had real weight, and ignoring them risked alienating a younger generation that was already skeptical of the monarchy's relevance. Behind closed doors, discussions about damage control were intense. Some advisors suggested that Charles should make a public statement, acknowledging Diana's legacy while reaffirming the monarchy's commitment to change. Others warned that any response could be seen as a defensive move, further fueling public scrutiny. At the heart of the crisis was a fundamental question: could the monarchy modernize without compromising its traditions? William's growing popularity made him the face of the institution's future, but it also put pressure on those who upheld its past. The longer the palace delayed its response, the more the debate intensified. What had begun as a single statement in defense of Diana had now turned into a moment of reckoning for the royal family. The question wasn't just how they would respond, it was whether the monarchy itself could withstand yet another test of its legitimacy. Public questioning the relevance of the monarchy. The controversy surrounding William's statement extended far beyond royal gossip. It reignited a national conversation about whether the monarchy still had a place in modern Britain. As social attitudes evolved, so too did the public's perception of the royal family. Polls showed a growing generational divide. While older Britons remained steadfast in their support for the monarchy, younger citizens were far more skeptical. Many questioned why an unelected institution based on hereditary privilege should continue to wield influence in the 21st century. William's decision to speak out only accelerated these debates. To many, the controversy symbolized a broader issue: the monarchy's failure to adapt to changing societal values. The institution had long relied on tradition, but in an era where transparency and accountability were increasingly demanded, its reluctance to engage with difficult issues was seen as a sign of weakness. Some royalists defended the institution, arguing that the monarchy still played a crucial role in Britain's national identity. They believed that the royal family brought stability and continuity even in turbulent times. But for critics, the handling of Diana's legacy and the lingering tensions within the family only reinforced the notion that the monarchy was out of touch. Social media amplified these conversations, with hashtags like "Abolish the Monarchy" trending alongside "Justice for Diana." The debate was no longer confined to history books or political discussions. It was happening in real time, with millions of people weighing in. For William, this presented a unique challenge. As the future king, he had to navigate a delicate balance between respecting tradition and embracing modernization. His stance on Diana's legacy had won him widespread support, but it also put him at odds with the very institution he was set to inherit. Would this moment mark a shift toward a more open, progressive monarchy? Or would it fuel further disillusionment, pushing more people to question whether the royal family had outlived its purpose? William's role in shaping the monarchy's future. As the dust settled, one thing became clear. Prince William was no longer just the heir to the throne. He was emerging as a transformative figure within the monarchy. His willingness to confront the past signaled a break from the traditional royal approach of silence and discretion. Unlike previous generations, William had built his public image around relatability and emotional openness. He and Kate had redefined what it meant to be modern royals, prioritizing mental health advocacy, hands-on parenting, and direct engagement with the public. This approach resonated deeply with younger generations, who saw him as a leader willing to challenge outdated norms. But William's growing influence also came with challenges. His decision to speak out about Diana's legacy placed him at odds with the more conservative factions of the royal establishment. Some within the palace worried that his openness could weaken the monarchy's long-standing policy of neutrality. Others, however, saw it as a necessary evolution, one that could help secure the monarchy's future in an increasingly critical world. Despite the controversy, William remained steadfast. He had always been deeply protective of his mother's memory, and this was not just about personal sentiment. It was about ensuring that the lessons of the past were not ignored. If the monarchy was to endure, it had to acknowledge its mistakes rather than bury them. For the public, William's actions represented a potential turning point. Would he be the king who finally modernized the monarchy, or would the weight of royal tradition hold him back? One thing was certain: his leadership would define the monarchy's trajectory for years to come. A defining moment in royal history. As the royal family grappled with the fallout from William's statement, one undeniable truth emerged. Diana's influence had not faded. Decades after her death, she remained one of the most powerful figures in the monarchy's narrative, shaping its past, present, and future. William's words had reignited discussions that the palace had long hoped to put to rest. The monarchy was at a crossroads, forced to confront its history while trying to maintain its relevance in an ever-changing world. Would this moment be remembered as a step toward reform, or would it expose deeper fractures within the institution? Time would tell. But one thing was clear: Diana's legacy was far from over.